So if you're following my stories, some of you know that this afternoon I went out and found some red oak in a big box store dumpster, and also in a pallet that I brought back to the shop to disassemble. So I was just processing, as in pulling out all the nails on some of that wood. And of course, when you have a bunch of nails driven through wood, especially near the end of the board, it often causes splits. And so I have these little pieces of red oak that have, you can see the remains of where nails went through them. And I was just thinking that it might seem like these are complete junk, but they really aren't. I mean, they're still nice little pieces. One thing I like to do with them is just take my battening chisel or hacking knife and try to take a bit of a look at the direction of the grain, and then just cut them up into rough size blocks, trying to maybe get them into sort of small squares, 3/8 1/4 inch square, something like that, in preparation for making wood pegs. Thing to remember is you don't want to make them fully into a wood peg at this point, because recall that this wood has been outside. It was in a dumpster, but that's basically exposed to the elements. You don't know for how long. It probably has a fair bit of moisture in it, so you want to cut this into rough size and then let it sit. And I would say let it sit for at least a few weeks, if not longer. And in fact, if you're going to make pegs for joinery out of it, I would even say let it sit longer, maybe even make a little incandescent bulb lit kiln, because you really want to get this wood nice and dry. It's far better to have pegs that are over dried than too wet, because of course when you have dry wood, that's shrinks the cells, so it would make the diameter, we'll say, of a peg or something, tighten it up a little bit. Then if you drive that peg into a hole with some glue, the peg is actually going to expand a little bit, because it'll take on some of the moisture either from the glue or even just from the slightly moister wood around it, and that will actually tighten the joint. So far better to let this wood sit in at a rough size for a while, get it nice and dry, and then shape it into a peg and use it. Anyways, this is a really fun way to use up these little pieces of found wood.